of all, okay, recording in progress. And okay, thank you. And first of all, let's thank you, Professor Zhang, for being with us today. And Professor Zhang will share his experience and analysis about Confucius institutes in Europe, its status, its futures, and what challenges it is facing, or they are facing, or they will be facing, especially in Europe. Professor Zhang is an associate professor of international business in Neoma, right? I'm not sure how business school, which is a leading triple crown business school in France. And he's also the founding director of the business school's Confucius Institute for Business, which is actually the first Confucius Institute for Business in France, and its partner university in China is the quite reputable Nankai University in Tianjin. And Professor Zhang also served as a visiting scholar or guest professor in universities in many places, like in mainland China, also in Macau and Belgium, and of course also in France. And he researched extensively on China's FDI in Europe and also China's multinational companies. And without further ado, perhaps we can now invite Professor Zhang to share his insights with us. The stage is yours, Professor Zhang.
Okay, thank you very much. And I will try first to share my screen, then we'll start to talk about. So, okay, do you see my screen?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, good afternoon, and thank you very much for the news to invite me for this talk. So, as founding director of a Confucius Institute in Europe, I would like to share some key points about the Confucius Institute in general, and also the challenge we are facing today. So I'm an associate professor at Neoma Business School, and basically I'm a faculty member, and I'm teaching in international business. And the Confucius Institute is a part of my work. Exactly 20% of my working time as director of the Confucius Institute for Business there. So today I will try to answer 5 questions which might be interesting for you. One is what is a Confucius Institute? The second question, how does it operate? And I will try to present the institute that I'm director. And we also try to answer the question about how a Confucius Institute can impact business. Then we try to answer about the current challenges, the major challenges, and we will try to see how we can face these challenges and turn these challenges into opportunity. So that will be the topic. So the first question, what is a Confucius Institute? Actually, what we are talking is actually a culture institute or a culture organization, which is not unique. It's not a Chinese-made product. Actually, a long time before China, we see already other similar institutions in different countries. For instance, in France, you have Alliance Française, which was already established in 1883, so more than 100 years ago. And today they are in more than 130 countries. Then we have the Goethe Institute. It's from Germany. It was established in 1951 and it's operating about 100 countries. Then we have British Council. It's from the UK, which was established in 1934. So in more than 100 countries. So the only difference that the Confucius Institute, they started very late, so 2004. So in 2004, the Chinese government established the first institute in South Korea, at the same time in the US. So, because of different structure, the Chinese Confucius Institute, they become very successful if you compare to other cultural institutions. We will come back to these differences. So the objective of all these institutes is the same. It's the same. Promote language, promote culture, and try to build a good understanding, a mutual understanding between countries. So that's the same for Alliance Française, the same for Confucius Institute. Then the organizational structure is different. Just because of this different structure, then the Chinese Confucius Institute become quite dynamic. So look at the Alliance Française or British Council. It's most of them, they are independent organizations. They receive subsidies from government, but they are not part of the government structure, and they don't work with partners in foreign or in host country. So they are independent. But the Chinese one is based on the partnership with the universities in host country. So it's some kind of joint ventures. Both parts need to contribute, and because of this complementary in the resources, they are quite successful. So look at the statutes. It's also different in the sense that the Alliance Française or British Council, they are assigned by the governments, but the independent charity organization. The Confucius Institute, they were parts of government, and they have a partnership in different legal formats that we come in minutes to explain the new development. The budget, if you look at budget, the other Western cultural institutions, they rely on their own income plus donation plus government subsidies, but the big part, the majority parts of the budget is from the own income. In the case of China, it's just in the opposite way. The big parts, the dominant parts is from government subsidies and contribution by partners, but most of them, they don't make a profit. So we can see in most of Confucius Institute, they receive subsidies. So look at the mission. We mentioned already So it's a no-profit educational institution to promote Chinese language, to promote Chinese culture, to actually promote exchange in education, culture, cooperation, to build mutual understanding and to promote some kind of multiculturalism and try to build some kind of mutual understanding. So that's every institute use this as their mission. Then activities, you have first the Chinese language teaching, then you have the TOT programs, training for trainers, the program for educators. And then you have also the organization of the different tests, the Chinese proficiency test like HSK. And you have also the project in culture exchange. So look at the big structure that these institutes are under the leadership of Ministry of Education, Chinese Ministry of Education. There's a special department called the Hanban, so the Chinese Language Council International. So this department, they coordinate, they organize activities of the Confucius Institute. So this called the headquarters, like a mother company of all joint ventures of Confucius Institute. So actually under government initiative, under with government financial support. But recently, exactly from last year, this was no longer the case. So if you look at today, the government is no longer in the picture. They set up a new foundation called the Chinese International Education Foundation, which consists of 27 universities, companies, and organizations to promote language and cultural exchange. They replace the government department. And the former government department, they changed into a center, the center of knowledge. So they provide support to Chinese teachers, to provide teaching materials, etc. But they have no direct ownership linkage, no direct leadership linkage between Confucius Institute and Ministry of Education. So it's a separate structure which supports the activities. So the direct leadership or direct administration is the foundation. So, and you have about 600 Confucius Institutes over the world, and you have two types of institutes. One we call the generic Confucius Institute, which provide education on language, Chinese culture. But you have also specialized Confucius Institute, which are specialized in, for instance, Chinese medicine, Chinese dancing, Chinese music, and also Chinese business. So that's just give you an example on the Confucius Institute for Business. So meaning these institutes, they are specialized in the cross-cultural business communication. So we have, for instance, our school work together with Nankai University, but you have also LSE together with Tsinghua University, etc. So all these institutes, we have about 15 Confucius Institute for Business in the world, and we make some kind of alliances. We work together. So that's a specialized Confucius Institute. About number, today, after 15 years of development, you have already 663 Confucius Institute in 164 countries. And you have also 1,700 Confucius classroom. So Confucius classroom, it's smaller. It's a small structure. So it's a similar with similar activities as Confucius Institute. So if you look at the development, it's really quite impressive, quite a successful adventure. Look at the geographical distribution. You have mostly in Europe, so about the 28%, then followed by Latin America, Asia, and America used to be also very important, but recently the number is decreased rapidly. We come back to that in minutes. Look at the governance of Confucius Institute. We say that Alliance Française, they are independent. But here, if you look at the Confucius Institute, usually you have a Chinese partner and mostly a Chinese university. So in our institute, we have Nankai, but you have many Chinese universities. They are involved as a partner for Confucius Institute. Then in the foreign host country, you have also universities. And from time to time, you have also governments or schools, primary schools as partners, but mostly high educational institutions. Then the Chinese side, they contribute for budget, the budget for operation, budget for a project. Then you have Chinese teachers. They send Chinese teachers to Confucius Institute, and they also give the pedagogical support. Then the local partners, they provide infrastructure, they provide administration support for the institute. It's like joint venture that, in China, at the beginning of Chinese opening in 1980s, and local Chinese companies, they provide facilities, workshops, and foreign companies, they provide budget technology. So it's like this type of joint venture. So then regarding to the legal status of the institute, it's different from, again, from Alliance Française. There you have they have the legal status. They have legal status as a cultural organization. Here we have mostly a project, no legal status. So they are inside of university. They are considered as a project, or as a part of an education project. There's no legal person representing the Confucius Institute. Sometimes you have the status as an association. There you have the legal statutes, but this again is not quite popular. So you have two types of statutes for the Confucius Institute. For the administration inside of Confucius Institute, you have the highest committee is a board of directors. So inside of board of directors, you have the Confucius Institute partners. So meaning Chinese university, they represent their university in the board of directors, as well as local or host universities. Then sometimes you also have some external board members. Mostly they are the stakeholders of the Confucius Institute, like the local government or the local companies or local cultural organizations. So you have a board of directors which organize each year one important meeting to decide about the budget, a project, and also to give the strategic direction of the Confucius Institute. Then in the inside of the executive team, you have all time you have two directors. One sent by Chinese university, Chinese partner, and the other one we call sometimes local director or foreign director, which usually academic person or a member of a faculty member, and which take the direction as a part of their activities. They are employee of the local university. So that's the typical structure inside of the Confucius Institute. So I think give you this big picture, you can understand the reason, the motivation for China to develop this type of activities abroad. So look at the operational level. For instance, our institute, we have our mission is related to cross-cultural management. So our mission is bridging the cultural gaps to empower management, try to provide support for Chinese companies, for foreign companies to work together in their cross-border business activities. So the institute was established in 2004. The opening ceremony was organized in France. We have two very important persons. On the left side is a general director of Hanban, Xu Ling. She was actually the initiator of this project. She was a very strong leader, and she was very efficient in creating and in build this type of institute over the world. So she's very popular. Then we have the former Minister of Foreign Affairs of France, Fabius. So he was also the initiator for our Confucius Institute. He wrote a lot of letters to support our project. You know, at that time, 2014, at that time, many universities, foreign universities, they want to have this type of project. The competition was very tough. So that was hey. So the motivation for us actually to use our management knowledge to contribute to this type of activities, especially for the business between Europe and Asia, between China and Europe. And we also want to use Paris location advantage. As you know, Paris is the location for many headquarters of multinational companies. So we want to use that location to promote cross-cultural management. So we want to build a knowledge center. We want to provide training programs, etc. So that's the motivation. Look at the activities. Actually, we try to have a language and cultural courses, but specialize in business language. So we have a Chinese for business, so special language course. Then we have the cultural events, especially relate to the Chinese New Year, but also like cross-cultural events. For instance, Chinese tea, but Chinese tea business in Europe. How European companies use Chinese location advantage to promote their activities in China or in Europe. So relate to this type of a cultural event. But we have also conference workshop about the Chinese economy, Chinese business. Then we have executive education for managers, Chinese manager, and also for European managers. So these are our activities. And if you look at these achievements over last, I would say 6-7 years, you see we have a 2014 establishment, 2016 we have already as a Confucius Institute of the Year. Then we have a HSK exam center, training center for Chinese teachers. Then this year we will open a new campus in Paris, and we have a 500 square meter for Confucius Institute, and we call this a model Confucius Institute, which will provide basically training activities for other Confucius Institute. So that's what we do, and some big projects which probably quite interesting to see. First one, we actually set up a language level system in the school, try to apply these courses inside of a school. And we have a different level and which bring different students to this platform, which was not possible before. And the second one, we create some kind of ecosystem for education, for language education, from the learning language to experience culture, to have a Chinese job day, and to build Chinese internship, Chinese career, and at the end, alumni network, etc. And we have also different type of programs for business students and for business managers. So if you look at the total participants of our institute, we have about 10,000 registered participants, and about 20% they are business people. Then we have about 70% are students. So that's a very important distribution. If you look at the focus of activity, it's related to management, related to executive education. So here you see some kind of evolution over years about the number of participants in our different programs. So how this can impact business? So we have a lot of debate on the importance of Confucius Institute, on the motivation, etc. So before we go to these controversial discussions, we first look at the so-called the academic research. We try to see how researchers, the international academic people, how they look at this, the impact of these cultural institutions on the business. So look at the framework. We look at the Confucius Institute or language learning, cultural exchange. We look at this as some kind of people-to-people exchange. So in the people-to-people exchange, you have two types of attitude. So one is from host country attitude. One is the travelers' motivation by government or motivation by private companies or people. So if you divide this, you put these two dimensions into a matrix, what you see, the government try to promote the people-to-people exchange. So what's the program that we see? First, you see the so-called these twin cities, like sister city relationships. That's started in the US after Second World War, but China also followed this type of initiative to create the sister city relationship. The second one, what we see between China and Europe is the high level people-to-people development programs, the dialogues. So we have many dialogues about the environmental issues, high education, even human rights. Then we have this Confucius Institute, or the cultural institutions like Alliance Française, like Goethe Institute, or like British Council, this type of cultural institution. It's all promoted by government, driving by government. And the government take a quite positive attitude. Then we have private initiative, but also promoted by government, that's tourism. So people, they go to countries and they learn from different culture and they promote people-to-people relationship. Then we have also these international studies students, but you have also activities which are contained by government. That's the migration, immigration flows, which are in most of cases, the government, they don't like to have this type of programs in their policy. So then people-to-people management, people-to-people exchange actually creates mutual understanding. When you understand each other, there's a trust. When there's trust, then you can lower the transaction cost, meaning it's easier to get information for free. You have a more foundation for trust, for contractor, and you have a less cost for legal enforcement. So all these cultural institutions actually can promote people-to-people communication, people-to-people exchange and lower transaction costs in the business. So there are many research in that way, and the results show that this language exchange, cultural exchange can promote foreign direct investment, can have positive impact on foreign direct investment, can also positive impact on trade, but less important. Then in most of these studies, they use data about the Confucius Institute, about German Goethe Institute, and also Alliance Française. All these show the same results. So meaning these are positive for the business exchange between countries. So however, since 2016, there's some kind of new debate in the international political discussion, especially from the US. So first one, they start to ask what's the true objective of Confucius Institute, because this institute is related to the government. So the Chinese government is actually the part of the whole party system. So they think that the relationship between Confucius Institute and Communist Party is too much close. Then they also link the Confucius Institute to the political agenda of the government, and also some kind of controversial issues about debates, Taiwan, etc. Then they also think that Confucius Institute is a soft power to promote one-party system, and sometimes they damage the academic freedom. Then even they said that the Confucius Institute is set up to carry out the industrial and military espionage. So we have some cases also even in Belgium, they talk about that. Then in this type of discussion, then we see with the Trump administration, they set up a number of special regulations to close down Confucius Institute. So over last 2 years, 85 Confucius Institute were closed in the US, and there are still 38 in operation, but 8 of them, they will be closed because they are already in the schedule. So that's give you a clear indication that Confucius Institute are in trouble. It's not only in trouble in the US, but also in Europe. For instance, in Sweden, most of them, they were closed. And in Belgium, the two institutes in the university in Brussels, they were closed. So look at this, we can see clearly this can be linked to a general political climate related to China. So as compare, if you compare before 2016, Confucius Institute is no longer very well appreciated by Western universities and especially politicians. They look at the Confucius Institute more as a soft power of China. However, if you look at the Western cultural institutions, they are also soft power of their country, of their government. Personally speaking, I don't think there's a problem that Confucius Institute is a soft power, because every country, they use the language, the cultural exchange to promote their country. So if Confucius Institute is not appreciated because it's this is a soft power, I don't think this is a reasonable argument. So that's why if you look at the European political climate, Confucius Institute is become is no longer promote government driving government to promote project, but more move towards government contained institutions or government contained programs. So the government is no longer in favor for this type of initiatives. So that's why recently, this is from magazine in France, the Libération, and it's in July series or issue. They published a special issue on Confucius Institute. If you translate this, it's called the red alarm on the blackboard. So it's a penetration of a Chinese soft power into Western university. So you see, it's become really very negative perspective. And at the beginning of September, several Confucius Institute in France were invited to deliver a parliament hearing in France to present the project. So that we see. So how we can change this situation? It's quite difficult, quite difficult, because this is related to the general political, geopolitical situation, between China and Western country. So look at the similarity, look at differences between Confucius Institute and Western cultural institutions. They are, as I mentioned, they are quite similar. The objective, the activities, the motivation, they are very similar. The impact also very similar. A positive impact on the people-to-people relations, business activities, trade activities, they are the same. The only difference that we mentioned that the Chinese government involved directly into the governance. So that's why from last year, Chinese government tried to separate from this institute and they set up this foundation to replace the government. And from now, if you look at Confucius Institute, they are similar to other cultural institutions because they are in the private international foundation structure. However, the partnership is still different from others. For Western institutions, they work like an independent organization. They have their own directors, they have their own professors, teachers, administration people. So it's like a company, like an organization. They have their own people working, and they can create their expertise in management, in education, and they can also build their personal career. But in Confucius Institute, it's a temporary employment. So teachers sent by Chinese university to Confucius Institute, they are like diplomats. So every 2 years, they have to go back to their home university, and they are no longer belong to Confucius Institute. The directors, they are professors at university. So they take this as a temporary or part-time job. So they are not really linked to the Confucius Institute. So it's the same for local or foreigner employee. It's more or less in the same structure. So because of this, on the one side, you are quite flexible. You can become quite dynamic, flexible, and you attract best resources in a short time. But on the other side, people are not motivated really. They have no possibility to create a career. So that's why usually the quality of the Confucius Institute depend to the leadership, to the team they build, and this also very volatile. So it's changed. It can change quickly. So that's I think it's from inside. Still, Chinese foundation need to think about this and try to build a strong team for that. From the perspective of the relation with the foreign government or foreign universities, I would say Chinese government need to be confident, and Chinese government need to voice clearly that Confucius Institute is the same as any other Western institutions, cultural institution. It's nothing wrong with government support. It's nothing wrong with the mission to promote Chinese culture or Chinese language, because it's good not only for China, but also for others to increase people-to-people exchange or business activities between countries. So these are, I think, also if you look at today's situation, many Confucius Institutes, they take a very low profile. They try to not provoke the others, and so I think this is still we need some years to change the situation. But from our institute, we have any trouble, any problem, we get full support from our host university, meaning Neoma Business School, and they fully understand the situation. So this also because we communicate clearly what we want, what we do, and with the local government, we communicate also clearly. So we have no any issue with our stakeholders. But this, I think the best way to work is as an institute, you should to communicate clearly to others. But most of the institutes today, I think they take a different approach. They try to be low profile. So I stop here. I don't know if we still have some kind of 10 minutes for questions. I'm sorry that I talked too much. Then let's see if we have some questions. I cannot hear you. Sorry, I cannot hear. Yeah.
David, so we can't hear you.
Yeah.
David.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now it's okay. Now it's
now
okay.
It's okay. Sorry. Yeah, I was just saying the insider's view is very important because you mentioned not only the geopolitical things, but also some built-in issues within the structure of a Confucius Institute. Because if the staff were just assigned from China on a very rather ad hoc basis, then the effectiveness or efficiencies of the institute may not be ensured generally. And that's also what I saw in Groningen, in SOAS. Yeah. And questions are welcome. And I wonder if any participant would like to ask a questions. You can send your questions to the chat box, or you can indicate if you want to ask a question. But I would have a first question to ask Professor Zhang is that because we all know that the brand of Mr. Marcus, would you want to?
Hello, how are you?
Yeah.
Hello.
Hi, Rosie.
Nice to see
Good
you.
to see you.
Such a long time. Well, naturally, about 2 months, right?
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for a very informative presentation about the Confucius Institute. I just wonder nowadays in Europe, I'm not exactly sure how many Confucius Institutes still there, and if there is a number of them that were closed down, or the where is that actually happening more frequently? Is there any kind of pattern, either in the north or the south or Central Europe or something? Can you find any kind of pattern in regard to this problems or the closing down of the Confucius Institute in the EU particularly? Okay, thank you. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. Thank you very, very much for your question. It's a good question. So in Europe, we have about 110 Confucius Institute, and we saw some close down in North Europe, especially Sweden. I think most of Confucius Institute in Sweden were closed. And we have some cases in Belgium, also one in France, one or two in France, for different reasons. The contract for Confucius Institute usually is 5 years, and each 5 years you need to renew. So in the case of North Europe, they did not extend their contract. But in Belgium, in Free University in Brussels, two, they were closed during the contract, meaning that was really a close down. The argument was that their academic freedom were damaged. But there's no evidence published. Nobody really knows what was the reason. And what we see in last 2 years is that there were a lot of closed down in the US. However, you have new openings in developing countries, especially Africa and south parts of Asia, along the Belt and Road countries. So the total number did not change. There was a switching from Western to developing country.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. And other members of the audience wonder about the question is, could you elaborate more on what you mean by transaction cost theory, particularly the hierarchy of transaction costs like English, French, Spanish, Arabic?
Yeah, that was a study made by several scholars on the impact of cultural institutions, and what they see that the transaction costs reduce because of the language exchange. So meaning when you invest in a country or you do business in a country, you have the cost for doing business in that country. So the cost consists of 3 parts. It's information. So you collect information, you use a consulting company, you have to pay. Then when you decide to do that business, you need a contract. So you need to hire a lawyer, that cost. Then if the other parts breaks contract, then you have to go to the court, the legal, the lawsuit, it costs money. So that's the transaction cost. When people trust each other, understand each other, this cost can be lower. So they made a study on the impact of language programs. So they found out that the impact of English, common English language, has a very good impact or important impact on the transaction cost. So that's
David, something wrong with your David.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, now.
Yeah. Probably the video doesn't work. Oh.
Again, problem. Okay.
Should be better now.
Now
it's okay. We can hear you.
Yeah. Okay. And yes. So basically, it's like the cost for dealing with business in different language speaking domains. The cost would be very different. Yeah.
The impact of mutual understanding in language. So
especially because Chinese is only spoken in one country, so that clearly has impact on the transaction cost rather high, I would say. And which lead to probably my final questions, if there's not any other questions. My final questions would be, because it's the same, it's about the Chinese language education, because one of the main tasks of Confucius Institute is teaching Chinese, I guess, to foreigners. And if Confucius Institutes, apart from Confucius Institutes, do you think people or students in Europe has any alternative, anywhere else they can turn to if things continue to go wrong, more and more CI get closer? Then how about that? The Chinese language education, how would that impact the Chinese language education in Europe? Anywhere else they can take HSKs, for example?
For Western country, they have already a tradition in language teaching, Chinese language teaching, before Confucius Institute. You have a University of Sinology, but you have also many training institutions which provide Chinese language teaching. And Confucius Institute provide a free, cheaper program, especially for the public, not only for students. So, for instance, in France, you have the Chinese language as a foreign language is a part of a national education system. That part, they never open to Confucius Institute. So if you close down Confucius Institute, they still continue to teach Chinese in their national education system. However, the Confucius Institute is very important for developing country, where they do not have necessary resources. So that's the situation. In the US, recently they are talking about to replace Confucius Institute by Taiwan's Cultural Center. So you know, Taiwan provide also Chinese language teaching in most of countries like Belgium, France, US. They call this 中山小学, the Sun Yat-sen Primary School. It's also good Chinese language teaching program. They have also very good resources. However, compared to Confucius Institute, they have limited resources. And now US talk about to replace Confucius Institute by Taiwan system. So it's purely political reason. But anyway, I don't think they can do that.
Yeah, but clearly Chinese language education in foreign countries have been also one of the battlegrounds for geopolitical tensions. Unfortunately, education was not supposed, but in reality, education is always linked to geopolitical issues. There's no way to escape that. And I guess that's it for today's sharing, today's webinar. And once again, thank you very much, Professor Zhang, for your wonderful presentations. We did learn quite a lot about Confucius Institute in Europe. Thanks again for sharing with us.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me to share this information. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.